Have you ever wondered what happens in a Las Vegas hotel after the lights go out? I've worked the night shift at a 24/7 hotel in Sin City for years, and I've seen it all. From crazy guests to secret staff rules. I'll take you behind the scenes and reveal the truth about late-night hospitality in the heart of Vegas. The graveyard shift started, as it always did, with the stench of stale coffee and the hum of flickering fluorescent lights overhead. The sun had long dipped behind the shimmering skyline, but in Vegas, nightfall only thickens the illusion. The hotel glowed like a plastic smile, artificial, fixed, and just a little too wide. I swiped my ID card and stepped through the glass doors into the main lobby of the Bella Vista Hotel, a mid-tier joint hidden 2 blocks off the Strip. It wasn't one of the big, glitzy casino giants, but it wasn't a dive either. The kind of place frequented by tourists trying to do Vegas on a budget, and gamblers who'd lost more than they could admit. My uniform was standard issue, a burgundy blazer with gold piping, stiff black slacks, and a name tag that read Marcus, night clerk. The blazer always smelled faintly of bleach and cigarette smoke. I straightened the lapels and headed to the front desk, nodding to Diego, the day clerk, who looked like he'd seen ghosts, or maybe just too many bachelorette parties. "Anything weird today?" I asked casually. He gave a tight smile. "Nothing out of the ordinary, just room 304 again." I paused mid-reach for the shift log, the one with appealing wallpaper. Diego nodded slowly, his face unreadable. "Yeah, you'll see the note. Just make sure you follow the rules tonight, okay?" He didn't wait for a response. He clocked out, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. That was the first warning sign. The Bella Vista's night rules were printed on a laminated card in the drawer beneath the register. They'd been there since I started 3 years ago. Back then, I'd laughed them off as some manager's idea of a joke. But over time, I stopped laughing. Night clerk protocol. Effective 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. 1. Do not check in anyone between 3:33 a.m. and 3:47 a.m. 2. Room 304 is not to be entered after 1 a.m. 3. If the lobby phone rings but no one is at the desk, do not answer it. 4. Never allow guests to switch rooms between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. 5. If you see your reflection blink, turn off the lobby lights for exactly 30 seconds. There were more, 12 in total, but those 5 were burned into my memory. I'd seen what happened when they were ignored. I logged into the desk computer and did my routine, reviewed check-ins, room assignments, the guest ledger. Nothing unusual at first. A family in 215, a couple in 410, a lone guest in 207. The system showed room 304 marked as Do Not Disturb, which was odd. That tag only appears if the guest sets it from inside the room. But room 304 had no current occupant. I shook the thought loose. It was early still. Maybe just a system glitch. Around 10:45 p.m., the first guest of the night walked in, a wiry man with a cheap suitcase and eyes too wide for comfort. He wore a wrinkled t-shirt that read, "Vegas Baby," but he didn't look like he was here for fun. He leaned against the counter, tapping his fingers like a metronome. "Need a room," he said flatly. "Just for tonight." I ran through the usual script, showed him the list of available rooms, and handed him the key card to 507. As he turned to leave, I noticed he wasn't wearing shoes. Just bare feet against the cheap marble floor. "Sir," I called out, "you okay?" "Your shoes." He looked over his shoulder with a deadpan stare. Didn't need him anymore. He disappeared down the hallway without another word. That wasn't even the strangest part. At midnight, I took my 15-minute break in the tiny staff lounge behind the front desk. The lounge had one couch with a suspicious stain, a vending machine full of expired candy, and a little CRT TV that only got one channel, static-filled news reruns. That's when I heard it. A keycard beeped behind me. I turned, expecting another guest at the front desk, but the lobby was empty. The sliding doors hadn't moved. The cameras hadn't flickered. Still, one of the green, occupied, lights on the room status panel blinked on for room 304. It had been vacant. I was sure of it. I stood frozen for a full minute, then went back to the desk and opened the staff channel on the walkie-talkie. Benny? You around? I called. Benny was the night security guard. Ex-military. Big guy with a buzz cut and a suspiciously silent demeanor. He didn't answer. I checked the guest log again. 304 still showed as empty. I reread the rule. Room 304 is not to be entered after 1 a.m. I looked at the clock. 12:47 a.m. 13 minutes to go. At 12:58 a.m., a young woman wandered into the lobby, dragging a duffel bag behind her. She looked lost, eyes glassy, cheeks streaked with mascara. Her dress sparkled under the chandelier light like it still wanted to be a party. "I need to change rooms," she whispered. "Please. Something's wrong with mine." I swallowed. "What room are you in, ma'am?" 304, she whispered. My stomach dropped. "That's not possible," I muttered. "That room wasn't, no one was." She leaned in close. Her breath smelled of gin and something sour. "He keeps whispering from a wall." My hand instinctively moved to the drawer where the rules were. I flipped the card over. Rule number 4 stared back at me. Never allow guests to switch rooms between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. It was 1:01 a.m. I could still do it, but something in my bones screamed don't. "I'm sorry," I said gently, "but our system doesn't allow mid-shift room changes. Maintenance will check on it first thing in the morning." The woman's eyes filled with tears. She nodded slowly, then turned and walked out the front door. She didn't take her bag. By 2 a.m., the hotel had gone deathly still. No lobby noise. No footsteps in the hallway. Just the occasional crackle of the wall-mounted intercom and the whir of the AC unit that never quite worked right. I sipped from a cup of lukewarm coffee and stared at the reflection in the black screen of the check-in monitor. My reflection blinked, but I didn't. I knocked the cup over, coffee sloshing down the keyboard. Without hesitation, I killed the lobby lights. Darkness swallowed the room like a wave. The only sound was the click of the wall clock secondhand. My heart thundered. The rules said 30 seconds. No more. No less. I counted in my head. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. At 27, a soft click echoed from behind me, like a lock turning in slow motion. I didn't turn around. At 30, I flipped the lights back on. The lobby was empty. The woman's duffel bag was gone. So was the key card to room 304. At 3:33 a.m., the lobby phone rang. I had just stepped away to fill out a log report. The phone was sitting alone on the desk, its screen blinking red, the ringer shrill in the silence. No one was there to answer it, and I didn't move. I stared at it until it stopped ringing, exactly at 3:47. I looked at the clock. 14 minutes. The exact time window from rule number 1. I flipped the rule card over, hoping the words had changed, hoping something, anything, made sense. But they hadn't. They never do. As the sky outside began to shift from black to bruised violet, the hotel began to wake. The first day shift staff filtered in, chatting about nothing. Tourists started appearing in the lobby, dazed and hungover. Light returned, but something in the air still felt wrong. I checked the system one last time. Room 304, vacant. Except under the last access log, the time read 1 a.m. The door had opened, but it had never closed. There's a certain silence that only exists in hotels after midnight. It isn't peace. It's more like anticipation, as if the building itself is waiting for something to happen, something it remembers from nights long before I ever clocked in. I try to shake off the unease from last night's events. The blinking reflection, the barefoot man, the woman from room 304 who seemingly vanished, her bag and keycard gone by morning. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I imagined some of it. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The shift began normally. The same login screens, the same stale air freshener barely covering the old carpet smell. The rules were still there, laminated, rigid, mocking. No one ever talked about them openly. Even Diego, who trained me years ago, avoided them like they were cursed. At 10:30 p.m., I made my first walk through the back corridors, the staff-only parts that no guest ever sees. The layout of Bella Vista is a maze of narrow hallways, emergency stairwells, and service elevators that feel older than the city itself. The hum of fluorescent bulbs buzzed overhead as I moved past the industrial kitchen. It wasn't used for guests anymore, too expensive to run. But once in a while, someone claimed to hear clattering in there late at night. Like pots moving, like footsteps pacing. I reached the laundry room next. Machines lined the walls, hulking, groaning, mechanical beasts that never stopped running. A woman named Carla worked there during night shifts. She was small, graying, and always wore headphones plugged into a cassette player. "Hey, Carla," I called over the noise. She looked up, nodded politely, and went back to folding a massive stack of towels. "Quiet night." She paused, one hand frozen mid-fold. "Don't go near room 304 tonight," she said softly, not looking at me. I blinked. "Why? Did something happen?" Carla set the towel down with unsettling care. "It woke up early." My skin prickled. What woke up? But she just smiled, sadly, knowingly, and turned up the volume on her cassette. By midnight, I found Benny outside maintenance storage, changing the light in one of the overhead fixtures. The hallway beyond flickered like a strobe. Benny didn't flinch. "You get my call last night?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he tightened the bulb, stepped down from the ladder, and dusted off his palms. "I heard it," he said eventually, "but I don't answer the radio when I know who's calling." I frowned. It was me. He gave me a look that chilled my blood. Was it? I followed him as he walked toward the boiler room. Benny didn't talk much, but when he did, it was worth listening. "Rooms here, they have memory," he muttered, more to himself than to me. "They remember who died in them, who suffered, who couldn't leave." "That's poetic," I said, trying to mask my discomfort with sarcasm. "No," he replied flatly. "It's literal." He paused at a breaker box, flipped open the panel, and gestured toward a circuit labeled 304. "See this?" I nodded. "It's not connected to the grid anymore. We disconnected the entire room 2 years ago. Then how is it lit up in the system?" He smiled grimly. "Exactly." I returned to the front desk around 1:15 a.m. The lobby was quiet again, and every step I took echoed unnaturally loud. I poured myself another cup of coffee and tried to focus on paperwork, anything to keep my mind off 304. At 1:40 a.m., the intercom buzzed. That was strange. No one ever used the intercom anymore. It had been busted for years, only letting through static or muffled fragments of old messages that didn't make sense. But this time it was clear. Housekeeping to room 304. Please respond. I froze, cup halfway to my lips. Repeat, I said into the radio. Did someone just request housekeeping to 304? Nothing but silence. I buzzed the housekeeping line. No answer. With a sense of creeping dread, I checked the staff tracker app on the monitor. Every staff member has a badge with an RFID chip, just to keep tabs on their movement. It's required. Except, none of the housekeepers were showing up on the map. Not in the laundry area. Not in the halls. Not anywhere. I scanned again. Only one badge blinked. It was inside room 304. No name. No log. Just the pulsing red dot. Against my better judgment, I picked up the walkie. Benny, you there? Yeah. You near the 3rd floor? Heading there now. You watching? Yeah. Room 304. Something's not right. I know. I'm outside the door. I watched the security feed, sweat dripping down my neck. Benny stood in front of room 304. The hallway lights were flickering again, and his shadow stretched along the wall in a way that didn't match his movements. Don't go in, I said. I won't. Just listening. He leaned in toward the door. Then he flinched. There's someone crying inside, he whispered. What kind of crying? A child. Maybe a woman. But it's not right. It's like it's looping, playing the same 5 seconds over and over. He reached for the doorknob. Benny stopped. The camera feed glitched. Static burst across the screen. When it cleared, Benny was gone. Just gone. No sign of the door opening. No shadow. No struggle. Just an empty hallway. Panic gripped my throat. I grabbed a staff phone and tried calling him. No answer. I tried security override. It wouldn't trigger. The lights in the lobby dimmed slightly, even though the control panel showed full power. I turned toward the front window, hoping to see a police cruiser or anything that could anchor me to reality. Instead, I saw her, the woman from last night, the one who said he whispered from the walls. She was standing on the sidewalk outside the hotel, hands pressed to the glass, staring directly at me. Her eyes were pure black, not just pupils. Her entire sclera had turned into endless voids. I backed away. She smiled and mouthed 2 words. It's listening. At 3:06 a.m., the room keys started printing themselves. One after another, the machine at the front desk spat out blank cards, each one marked with room numbers. None of them existed. Room 6037. Room 888. Room 0. One printed with just the word, run. I reached to unplug the machine, but before I could, the lights flickered once, twice. Then everything went dark. Total blackout. Even the strip outside vanished, like someone had swallowed the city whole. The lobby was silent except for a quiet rustling, like something moving across carpet on its belly. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. From behind me, the phone rang. I looked at the screen. No caller ID. No time. Just static symbols pulsing on the display. I remembered rule number 3. If the lobby phone rings but no one is at the desk, do not answer it. But I was at the desk, and it was still ringing. I had never felt fear like that before, deep, primal, heavy in my bones. I lifted the receiver. The line clicked, and a low voice whispered, "You broke the rules, Marcus." Then the line went dead. When the lights snapped back on, everything appeared normal again. The key printer was quiet. The woman was gone. The lobby clean. Except for one thing. A sticky note placed neatly on the front desk, in handwriting I didn't recognize. If you see the girl again, do not let her inside. She brings the 5th rule. I searched the 3rd floor. No Benny. No sign of struggle. No sound from room 304. Only the faint smell of old perfume and scorched fabric outside the door. I checked the circuit box again. Room 304 was still disconnected. And yet, the light inside the room was still on. Las Vegas is a city built on illusion. Lights, mirrors, sound, all designed to distract you from the truth. But when you work the night shift long enough, especially in a place like Bella Vista, you start to notice what the lights don't show. You start to wonder what hides in the shadows. And sometimes, you realize the shadows are staring back. After what happened last night, Benny vanishing on camera, the black-eyed woman, the phone call that knew my name, I nearly called it quits. I sat in my car in the parking lot for over an hour, palms slick with sweat, keys trembling in the ignition. But I didn't drive away. Not because I wasn't scared, but because something inside me needed to know the truth. I started my next shift by rereading every rule on the laminated card. Each word felt heavier now, like a contract I never agreed to, but was already bound by. Never allow guests to switch rooms between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. If you see your reflection blink, room 304 is not to be entered after 1 a.m. The rules weren't safety precautions. They were containment procedures. The hotel wasn't haunted. It was cursed. And someone, long ago, figured out just enough to keep the infection from spreading. I was part of that system now. And tonight, the system cracked wide open. At 11:20 p.m., a young couple checked in. A man in a tuxedo with lipstick on his collar, and a woman with glitter on her eyelids, and a too bright smile. Anniversary, the woman said breathlessly. Can we get a view of the strip? I smiled professionally. Sure. I've got 609 open. Great view. But when I want to print their key card, the machine jammed. No amount of tapping or resetting helped. Sorry, give me a sec, I told them, manually selecting another room. I clicked on 512. The system froze. Then, without input, it switched the screen to room 304. I stared in horror. What's taking so long? The man asked. I snapped out of it and closed the terminal, forcing a system reboot. When it came back online, the booking had auto-assigned them to room 304. The name fields were blank. The couple leaned over the desk, confused. Hey, is that our room? No, I said firmly, hitting the emergency override and assigning them to room 411 instead. As they walked away, I noticed something strange. The woman had no reflection in the marble tile. At 12:05 a.m., a man wandered in carrying an old, scuffed leather suitcase. He wore a faded trench coat and a fedora that shaded his face. He didn't speak for a long time, just stood at the counter breathing. Finally, he asked, "Is room 207 still vacant?" My blood turned cold. No one had mentioned that room, but he asked like he knew it personally. I pulled up the registry. Room 207 had been empty, but now it showed as occupied by a J. Marrow. No one by that name had checked in. No key cards had been issued. No logs existed. I'm sorry, I said cautiously. That room isn't available. He grinned slowly. You're not following the rules. Excuse me. His eyes, gray dead, rimmed with bloodshot cracks, locked onto mine. They're meant to protect you, he whispered. But not from me. Before I could move, he turned and walked into the lobby shadows. I ran around the desk to stop him, but he'd vanished. There are no side doors in that direction. Only one wall, just mirrors. And in the mirror, I saw something I'll never forget. He was still standing there, staring back at me, but not in this world. At 1:35 a.m., the radio crackled again. Security to lobby. Marcus, come in. It was a new guard, Ramon. Hired just 3 nights ago. Ramon, I'm here. There's a man standing in the east hallway. Been there 20 minutes. He's facing room 304, but not moving. Is he a guest? No badge. No name. Just a gray hoodie. Can't see his face. I opened the security feed. Sure enough, a man stood there, unmoving, hands in pockets. His posture was stiff, unnatural, like he'd been taxidermied upright. Talk to him, I said. Ramon's feed showed him walking up behind the figure. Sir, do you need? The feed cut. Hard static. Then a scream. I grabbed the emergency override and tried calling security. No answer. A system ping brought my attention back to the front desk monitor. Room 304 was now open. Someone had unlocked it. There were no guests with access. No master key logs. The system was lying. I made my way to the hallway, gripping the emergency key card, the one that was supposed to override every lock in the building. The hallway lights dimmed the closer I got to 304. The air grew colder. My breath fogged in front of me. And the man in the hoodie, he was gone. Just like Benny. Just like the girl. I stopped in front of the door. The brass numbers glinted faintly. 3-0-4. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I slid the emergency key card under the door and pressed my ear to the wood. At first, nothing. Then breathing. And not just one. Several. Layers of gasping, wheezing, sobbing voices, overlapping in an unnatural harmony. It wasn't a person inside. It was a collection. I turned and walked away. At 2:03 a.m., a guest came downstairs, visibly shaken. A middle-aged man in a wrinkled suit, sweat soaking through his shirt. I need to check out. Right now. Problem with your room? I asked, already printing his statement. I was in 514. I woke up, and there was someone under the bed. Did you call security? I tried. My phone just kept dialing room 304. As I processed his early checkout, the phone rang again. The caller ID was blank. I let it ring. 10 seconds. 20. 45. I finally picked it up. Silence. Then, I liked the girl better. The voice rasped. Who is this? A pause. You already know. Then a dial tone. I checked the call log. There was no entry. Around 3:10 a.m., the hotel lost power again. This time only the west wing. The cameras in that section went dark, including all floors that connected near 304. I used a backup flashlight and headed into the utility tunnel that led underneath the floor plan, a narrow passage the maintenance crew used for electrical inspections. Most staff avoided it. It was cramped, hot, and the concrete walls carried strange echoes. I entered anyway. The deeper I went, the colder it got. Eventually, I reached a junction labeled HVAC West. From above, I heard the unmistakable creak of bed springs shifting directly above me. I was under room 304, but it wasn't empty. The pipes above groaned like someone was crawling through them. A whisper drifted down. Come see us, Marcus. My flashlight died. I fled back to the lobby, heart pounding, skin clammy. I slammed the emergency shutdown switch, locking all guest access temporarily. But the system didn't respond. Instead, the screen blinked and displayed a new message I hadn't seen before. Rule 13 activated. Prepare the vessel. There were only 12 rules. There had always been 12. At 4:44 a.m., Ramon stumbled out of the east hallway, face pale, eyes bloodshot. He was covered in scratches, long, thin lines across his arms and neck, like he'd been crawling through thorns. They kept whispering it, he gasped. Kept saying I wasn't supposed to watch. I helped him to a seat and gave him water. He shook violently, like he'd been shocked. They said I wasn't the one, he whispered. But you are. As my shift neared its end, the first sliver of morning sun crept over the horizon. But the hotel didn't feel any lighter. The walls still held a breath, a pulse, a waiting silence. Before I left, I checked the log one more time. Room 304 status, pending arrival. Arrival of what? I don't know, but it's coming. And I have a feeling tonight will be worse. Las Vegas is supposed to be a city that never sleeps. But the Bella Vista Hotel doesn't just stay awake, it remembers. Every hallway hums with history. Every wall holds echoes of voices that shouldn't exist. I used to think the night shift was just quiet, boring work. Now, I know the silence is full of teeth. It was a little past 9 p.m. when I parked my car in the back lot. I didn't move for a while, just sat there, staring at the rear service door, trying to convince myself this was just another night. But something inside me had shifted, something heavy and permanent. 3 nights of strange guests, whispering walls, black-eyed women, and people vanishing without a trace had changed me. I wasn't just clocking in anymore. I was part of this hotel's ritual, a player in its game. And something, whatever lived behind room 304, was waiting for the game to end. I entered through the employee entrance and made my way toward the front desk. Every hallway I passed felt darker than usual. Even with the lights on, the shadows clung to the edges like they were waiting to pounce. The lobby smelled different too, cleaner, as if someone had just scrubbed every surface. But no one had. I hadn't seen Carla or any of the overnight housekeeping staff. Their RFID tags weren't showing on the system either. Only mine was blinking. And one other. 304. Still. Always. The shift started like normal. I ran through the guest registry. A couple in 207. A group of friends in 312. A single occupant in 601. But again, room 304 appeared as pending arrival. That status never changed. It had been that way for 3 nights straight. Someone was coming, but no one ever did. Unless it wasn't a guest at all. I tried to lock it out manually, restrict all access. The system refused. I even tried deleting the room's entry entirely. The moment I hit confirm, the screen flickered and reset itself. Room 304, occupied. I printed the activity log. The printer jammed 3 times before finally spitting out a single, crumpled page. It listed 6 room access attempts from unknown badges, all between 2:13 and 2:21 a.m. the previous night. The final entry was from 4:04 a.m. No room number, just one word. Lobby. Around 11:45 p.m., the strip outside was still alive with color and sound. Tourists stumbled past the hotel in feather boas and sequins. Neon signs blinked promises no one believed, and music throbbed from distant rooftops. But the Bella Vista stood apart, silent, unmoving. The lights inside felt colder, sterile, like it was sealed off from the rest of the city. A forgotten pocket of reality. I stepped outside briefly, just to breathe different air, to feel the outside world. Then I saw him. Across the street, under a broken lamppost, stood Benny. His uniform was torn. His neck bore deep scratches. But he was alive. Or he looked alive. He didn't move. Didn't wave. just stared across the road at the hotel like he couldn't approach it. I called his name. Nothing. I started across the street, but the lobby phone rang. The same shrill tone. When I turned back, he was gone. I returned inside and answered the phone. Static. Then, "Don't open the door tonight." "Who is this?" I demanded. "Don't open the door, Marcus. No matter what you hear." The line went dead. At 12:30 a.m., the guest in 601 called down. "There's a man in the hallway," she whispered. "He's standing outside my door, not moving. I think he's wearing a bellhop uniform." I switched to the hallway cam. Sure enough, there he was, standing completely still outside her room. I zoomed in. His name tag read Marcus. I bolted upright. That wasn't possible. It was me, but I was at the front desk. I spoke into the radio. "Ramon, I need eyes on the 6th floor. Now." Ramon didn't answer. Instead, the screen glitched, and suddenly, the hallway outside 304 was visible. The door was open, just slightly, a sliver of black between it and the frame. I made my way up. 6th floor first. The hallway was empty. No man in a bellhop uniform. No doppelganger. No trace. Room 601's door was locked from the inside. I knocked. A voice whispered from inside. "He's in the mirror. He's waiting for your name." I backed away. Next, I went to the 3rd floor. The door to room 304 was closed again. But something was different. The air was warmer. Damp, like the breath of something alive. I pressed my ear to the door again. No whispering this time. No breathing. Just silence. Then, tap, from the other side. Then again. Tap, tap. Not urgent. Not angry. Just patient. Like it knew I was there. Like it had all the time in the world. I didn't open the door. I ran. Back in the lobby, I found a note on the front desk. I hadn't left there. It was written on hotel stationery. The top read, "Guest feedback form." Underneath, scrawled in jagged letters, "Thank you for your hospitality. I've enjoyed watching you. Your reflection tastes like memory." There was no signature. At 3:01 a.m., the fire alarm in the east wing triggered, but only on one floor. The 3rd. I checked the cams. No smoke. No fire. No guests evacuating. Then I noticed something else. All the hallway doors on that floor were open, including 304. The alarm wasn't signaling fire. It was a summons. I opened the guest messaging system and sent a fake emergency alert to every occupied room, telling them to stay put and lock their doors. Then I turned on the building-wide intercom, something I hadn't done since training. "Attention all staff," I said, voice shaking. "Do not approach room 304 under any circumstances. This is not a drill." My voice echoed through empty halls and vacant stairwells. Then, a knock at the glass front door. It was the woman again, the one with the black eyes. She wasn't trying to come in this time. She just stood there, staring. And in her hands, she held a hotel key card. 304. I didn't move, didn't unlock the door. I just watched as she slowly lifted the key card and slid it through her palm like it was a razor blade. Blood ran down her fingers. She smiled and vanished. At 4:14 a.m., the system glitched again. This time, the staff dashboard displayed a prompt I'd never seen. Final night shift initiated. The screen flickered and displayed two options. Accept. Refuse. My hands trembled. I didn't press either. The screen went black, then glowed with a single word. Door. And just like that, the lobby lights died. I stood in the dark again. Behind me, the elevator dinged. Doors opened. No one was inside. But the panel inside the car flashed one word repeatedly. Down. There was no basement at Bella Vista. At least, not one I'd ever been told about. But I had a feeling that elevator was going beneath the hotel, where the true heart of it lived. As the sky outside paled and my shift neared its end, I made a decision. I grabbed a flashlight, a guest master key, and a notepad, and I wrote a final message on the front desk blotter. If I'm not here at 10 p.m. tomorrow, don't come looking. Just burn room 304. Then I stepped into the elevator and pressed the glowing down button. The elevator doors closed behind me with the sound of steel kissing steel. Final. Absolute. I half expected the panel to light up with a floor number, but it didn't. There were no floors. No buttons. Just that single word pulsing red. Down. And down I went. The sensation wasn't normal. The floor didn't shift beneath my feet the way elevators usually do. There was no hum of machinery. It was like falling through a tunnel of syrupy silence. Thick, choking, eternal. Seconds passed, or hours. Time unraveled. When the doors finally opened, I wasn't sure I'd gone anywhere at all. The space beyond the elevator wasn't part of the Bella Vista I knew. It was older. The walls were tiled in cracked green ceramic, like an abandoned hospital wing. The air was humid and smelled like rotting paper and old coins. Flickering fluorescent lights buzzed above me, but only a few worked. Others just sputtered, casting twisted shadows on the walls, shadows that didn't match my movements. A hallway stretched ahead, narrow, breathing. Yes, breathing. I heard it, the soft inhale and exhale of lungs that weren't mine. The sigh of a thing that had been waiting a long, long time. I moved forward. The air grew thicker with each step, the tile floor slick with condensation. A sound echoed down the hall, metal dragging on concrete. Slow, rhythmic. Around the corner, I found it. A bellhop cart, the kind used to haul luggage. It was piled with suitcases, dozens of them. Old, cracked leather and faded tags. All of them bore the same name. Marcus. Some were stained with rust. Others were damp, as if dredged up from deep water. And every tag listed a different room number. Rooms that didn't exist. Rooms that never should. I reached for one. It was warm. I unzipped it slowly. Inside were my clothes, my shoes, my badge. But the blazer was torn and soaked in blood. Further down, I found a door. Not like the others. This one wasn't metal or wood. It was made of mirrors. A dozen fractured panes, each reflecting a different version of me. One smiling, one sobbing, one bleeding from the eyes, one with no face at all. Etched across the glass in something deep and black were the words, "The guest checks out when the clerk stays." I didn't understand, but I felt it. The hotel wasn't a building. It was a being, and I was inside its lungs. I passed through the mirror door, and everything changed. I was in a lobby again, but not the one I'd left. It was older, dimmer. The furniture was wrapped in sheets, like no one had checked in for years. Dust hung in the air like smoke. Behind the desk was another clerk. His head hung low, eyes sunken, mouth slack. He looked like he hadn't slept in decades. I stepped closer. He looked up. It was me, older, broken. His lips moved, barely a whisper. "You shouldn't have come down." I backed away. "What is this?" He pointed toward the wall. There was a key rack, just like the one upstairs, but most of the hooks were empty. Only one key remained. Room 304. I took it without thinking. As soon as it left the hook, the ground beneath me trembled. Somewhere behind the walls, a low groan echoed, deep and mournful. The hotel was awake again, and it was hungry. I found the staircase and climbed, step after step, past rooms with no numbers, past doorways that led to black voids. Eventually, I reached a hallway I recognized. The third floor. Normal again. But the lights were dimmer, the wallpaper older. Room 304's door stood ahead, slightly ajar. I stepped forward, key in hand. And then I heard her, the woman with the black eyes, whispering from the other side. "Marcus." She was crying. "Please, it's cold in here." I almost turned back. Almost. But then the lights behind me began to flicker. One by one, they blinked out. I had no choice. I opened the door. Inside was not a room. It was a memory. My memory. I saw myself at age 8, standing in my childhood bedroom, watching my mother pack a suitcase. I saw myself at 15, in a hospital waiting room, praying under buzzing fluorescent lights. I saw the moment I accepted this job. Saw Diego handing me the laminated card. Saw myself laugh and say, "What kind of idiot writes rules for a night shift?" Each version of me looked out through hollow eyes. Each memory watched me back. I stepped deeper into the room. The air shimmered. The bed melted away. The wallpaper bled. And from the ceiling, something began to lower. A figure, pale, faceless, wearing a bellhop's cap. Its body was made of stitched flesh and shadow, like a marionette held together with thread and guilt. It opened a mouth that wasn't there and spoke directly into my mind. "You check him in, Marcus. Now it's your turn to stay." I ran. Through the room, through the hallway, through the hotel's pulsing veins. The walls bent. The stairs folded in impossible ways. I tumbled, bled, screamed. But I didn't stop. Not until I reached the lobby again. Only this time, it was morning, and people were everywhere. Laughing, eating breakfast, checking out. Normal. I stood behind the front desk, breathing, alive. Diego walked in, fresh and bright like none of it had ever happened. He smiled. "You good, man?" I stared at him. "You knew." He blinked. "Knew what?" "You knew about room 304. His smile faltered. "You saw it." I went inside. He took a long breath. "Then you've got one more shift left." "What?" "You can't leave until someone else opens the door." That was 3 days ago. I'm still here, working nights. The guests keep coming. The rules still hang beneath the counter. Room 304 hasn't opened again. Yet. But I know it will. And I know one night, a new clerk will start their first shift. They'll laugh at the rules. They'll take my key. And when they open that door, maybe I can finally leave.